Hey, what's up guys? Antoine here. I'm back again for another video, and first off, I promise I'm not trying to take like 2 months between every video drop, but man, like things just keep happening, getting sidetracked, whatever the case. Anyway, I'm back again to talk about cameras, and this time I'm talking about a camera that I've wanted to go over for a long time. In fact, I've tried to shoot this video like 3 times already, and it always just didn't work out, but because of that, I got tons of footage. Today we are going to talk about the fantastic Canon 90D, and we're also going to talk about why you should get one in 2022-2023. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Video is primarily what I use this camera for, at least what I used it for when I first picked it up. Now I'm kind of hanging back and trying out this camera and some of my other cameras for video, but the video specs still hold up even today. In fact, before I talk about the video specs, let's go ahead and just switch to the 90D and show you what kind of image you can get talking head just like this. And here we are on the Canon 90D now. Again, looking at it, this still gets a really good image even today. Let's talk about the video specs. You are getting 4K up to 30 frames a second with no kind of crop at all. So you're gonna do 4K 24, I can do 30. I can do a 4K with a crop, so it does have a 4K crop mode, which does sharpen up the image a little bit, sacrificing a little bit of a crop in the process. It's like a 1.1 or a 1.2 times crop, and honestly I shoot in that like 95% of the time. Gives me a nice sharp detailed image. Again, sacrificing just a little bit of the crop, that's something I can live with. You also have 1080p 24, 1080p 30, 60, and 120 frames a second. There is a slight crop in 120 frames a second, and unfortunately there is no autofocus in the 120, but you do have tools built in this camera like focus peaking. So using the focus peaking, I don't have a problem with hitting focus when I'm shooting 120 on this camera. I think the 120 looks fantastic. It's sharp, it's detailed, it doesn't look low res at all. The colors are still really nice in the 120. I use 120 all the time in this. I even use the 60p a lot too, because sometimes I want to make sure that I have the autofocus when I'm shooting at 60 frames. And again, it's really good on this camera, the 1080p is, and if I may rant a little bit, I do suspect the 1080p is so good on Canon cameras because they were late to the party incorporating 4K into their cinema cameras, so they had to make sure the 1080p looked really good to kind of compete with what other companies like Sony, Panasonic, and even Nikon were doing at the time with introducing 4K. So because of that, you got some really nice 1080p, and it's good because you can confidently intermix 1080p 60 or 1080p 120 footage with the 4K that comes out of this camera, and I think it looks really good. In a cinematic scenario, like I said, the autofocus comes in clutch. When it comes to that, the Canon uses the EF mount, which the EF mount has been around since 1987, and because of that, you've got hundreds and hundreds of EF options from Canon and third parties, because they did open up this mount decades ago. So I mean, whatever look you're trying to go for, there is an EF lens that can handle it. A lot of people kind of look at the EF mount as a downside, considering Canon is going all in on RF mount, and you know, every other company is rocking their mirrorless cameras with a shorter flange distance, but the EF lenses adapt very easily to pretty much any camera system, so you don't have to worry about investing in these lenses and then moving on to your mirrorless cameras later on if you so choose. I mean, that's what I did. It's not a big deal. As a vlog camera, this camera is great. I mean, it has fantastic autofocus. The body is lighter than the 80D. This is definitely heavier compared to cameras like the A6400 or the M50, but I also use this, I also often vlog with this Sigma 18-35, which the Sigma 18-35 is about as heavy as the camera itself. So that package with the mic and everything makes it, you know, on the bulky side. But if you're using like the 18-55 kit or or if you're using the 10 to 18 on this, you got a nice lightweight setup, fantastic autofocus, and you know, the body itself is going to be weather sealed, so that's going to protect you a little bit if you got a little bit of, you know, mist outside or snow or whatever the case. So as a vlogging camera, I do think it works well as a vlogging camera. Okay, going on to how it works in a more professional setting. Again, the autofocus is absolutely clutch here. I use manual focus lenses now because I'm trying to get more into shooting manual, but I know that the autofocus is going to work exactly as I need it to if I need to use the autofocus, and with the focus peaking built into the camera, that's definitely going to help me when I'm shooting manual as well. The only downside to it, I think in a professional sense, is the picture profiles. Now the Canon color science is very nice and you can get often great images straight out of camera, so that's not really a problem. But if you want to get more into color grading your footage and things like that, you don't have a lot of leeway when it comes to that. You can use the neutral profile and basically just turn everything down to kind of make it as flat as possible. I installed the CineStyle profile, so that's another option too. Go to Technicolor's website and install the CineStyle program. We'll probably talk more about CineStyle in its own video, but basically it's giving you a flat image that will allow you to squeeze a little bit more dynamic range out of this camera if you color grade that. And honestly, I'm shooting in CineStyle right now. This is what it looks like here without the grade, and this is it with a slight grade on. And so, like I said, I think the cameras look really good when you use the CineStyle. It's not as good as a log profile, but it's pretty darn close. Last but not least, when it comes to video, let's talk about low light, because the low light on this camera is actually pretty good, definitely compared to my T5i or my M50, which my M50 sucks in low light, by the way. There's a lot of finagling you got to do to it to get a decent low light image, but I mean, the algorithm in this works really well. There is noise that gets introduced starting at around 6400 and beyond, but I like the way that the noise is managed. It's not awful like it is on the M50. It almost looks like film grain in a lot of instances. So I've shot as high as like 5,000, 8,000, no problem. And if you compare it with a fast lens like the Sigma 18-35, you can get some really good results shooting in low light situations with this camera. Again, you don't have to use log in those situations because the color science is really nice. So I just shoot in neutral when I'm shooting low light to kind of keep down on the grain, and I think the image looks fantastic. Again, it's not going to be good as like, you know, your Sonys or a lot of your full frame cameras, but the 90D is no slouch when it comes to low light. You can definitely get the job done there. All in all, I think the 90D is a fantastic camera. I switched to this camera at the beginning of 2020, and it really helped me take off on my other YouTube channel and just take off as a photographer and filmmaker in general. I've done a lot of paid work for this, and I've definitely paid the camera back at this point. So the question remains, who is this camera for in the post R7 world? Is the 90D still worth it in 2023? Of course it is, okay? A lot of people will tell you that the DSLR is dead and they're not supporting it anymore, whatever the case, yada, yada, yada. Yes and no. Look, they're probably not going to come out with too many more DSLRs, if any. The 90D very well may be Canon's final DSLR, but with the features that it has, it's going to hold up for several years to come. It's always going to be a fantastic photo camera. You can get some fantastic stills out of this sensor, and compared with the EF line of lenses, of which there are hundreds and hundreds of lenses to choose from, you can get any look that you're looking for, okay? Again, it's not going to be supported, but it's run its course. They've basically made every lens that you can make for it. They updated the firmware in this camera, gave us some good 24 frames a second so we can shoot cinematic projects for it. Who is this camera for? Again, this is for the beginner, or if you're moving up from your Rebel cameras and you want something, you know, a little more substantial as far as features go. It's fantastic for content creation, this is a great YouTube camera. Again, I've been using this as my primary YouTube camera for the last 2 years or so, and I think the image still, I mean, with the 18 to 35 Sigma, I think the image holds up to pretty much any other camera that's out there with a YouTube, on the YouTube. You know, of course, the compression's basically going to even the playing field for everybody. So if you got a decent camera like this, you don't have to worry about, you know, your footage looking terrible compared to everybody else, unless, of course, you know, you just need more training in that. But the biggest thing, the last thing I want to talk about is the price. You can get the body used on eBay for like 800 bucks. And for 800 bucks, this definitely is worth the price of admission. You can get a lot of miles out of a camera like this and still probably sell it 2 or 3 years from now for like a good 600-700 bucks and get most of your money back. So I think the 90D is still a good investment, even though it's a DSLR. Because it's a DSLR, you got a nice rugged body that'll hold up to the elements, and the punishment you put on it being a new to intermediate filmmaker photographer. Alright guys, that's all I got for you in this video, but let's talk about it in the comment section below. Questions, comments, concerns, threats. What do you guys think about the Canon 90D? Yes, I've moved on to full frame, but I'm still going to be talking about this and my M50 a lot in the near future. If you guys like this content, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. You'll be glad you did. I do believe that's all I got for you. I'm out. Until next time.